Turning our attention to the world of the Seattle Seahawks, are they a top 10 offense in your opinion? Because I saw this thing. Is this from the article I sent you last night? Yeah. So I saw this article I sent you guys last night that had some audio on it, and Cameron Wolfe was talking about, the Seahawks and whether or not they can be a top 10 offense in this league.
Yeah, they certainly can be better than they were last year, which was a top 10 offense. And I like that they built around Geno Smith. There was a lot of speculation through the draft. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Well, Geno was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC last year and one of the best stories. And he is that way again going into this season. They have a great trio now of receivers, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I talked to a GM and executive from different teams. They had him as the number one receiver on their board. They got him with the 20th overall pick. He's going to be their slot guy, Pete Carroll said, a guy who can make big plays out of the slot while those veterans move outside. That makes them more dynamic as an offense. And then they have Kenneth Walker coming back, who had a great season. They pair him with Zach Charbonnet. I really like how they're building the Seahawks team. My big question for them is, can they get over the hump and beat the Philadelphia Eagles, beat the San Francisco 49ers? I'm not quite sure they're there yet. They went 1-5 against playoff teams last season. They have to be better against the teams that matter, or they're just going to be third or fourth best in the NFC as their ceiling.
Now, before we get into what he said, Dave, he left out one really important area of that offense, their line, which I'm excited about. I'm very excited about the potential of this line with the two tackles coming back after a very impressive rookie year. You drafted the kid out of Michigan, Olu at center. I feel like it's his job to lose. You've got Lewis as your veteran guard, and maybe you've got your rookie guard over there. It feels like the potential for a very good line is right there.
Yeah, but I think that it's potential.
Yeah.
And I suppose you could say that about rookies, though. I mean, he's mentioning Jackson Smith-Njigba. So, by the way, there are, I think, most of coaches that were involved and, all the personnel people, John Schneider, felt that Jackson Smith-Njigba was a top 5 pick if he doesn't get hurt last year. Top 5. So, and he looked really good. I'm going to throw another one in there who had a really good camp, and they're talking about, believe it or not, D. Eskridge. D. Eskridge has had just a great Pete was just raving about him, not ranting, he was raving. And the other guy, Geno Smith, now I don't know if he's going to come back and have the same type of year. So, and my answer is we'll see. I think it's a wait and see thing because, you look at just because they had two guys that they drafted and they played every game doesn't necessarily. Now, I always say I feel like your second year, that's when you pick up the most momentum and when you get comfortable and start playing really well. And both the tackles are in that situation. But, the center and two guards, when was Olu drafted? The 5th round?
5th round.
Does that blow your skirt up if you're a national guy going, yeah, they got a 5th round guy? Yes, he won all these awards and everything, but so I think that there's still, I think for them, for a national analyst, they're probably thinking, okay.
Would you be more excited about him or Evan Brown from the outside?
I'm much more excited about Olu.
Yeah,
much more because we went over this the 11 centers that they've had in the last since Pete and John have been here. 14 years now going on. So yeah, it's I get that part, but I think it's still very much up in the air. Is Geno going to have that kind of? And here's why I'm so encouraged about Geno. He is so much further along at this point this year than he was last year. They didn't know who was going to be the starter. Mm-hmm. They really didn't. So
I think we all thought it would eventually be Drew Lock.
Right. Because, he was part of the trade and Geno's been a backup. But he was just running everything. We were talking to Draymond Jones, was it, Mike, that was talking about how Geno is out there chipping away, barking at people and just really in control and command. And him and Bobby were kind of running it from each side of, the offense and the defense, as far as just morale, getting guys up, yelling at people, stuff like that, getting going. So, yeah, I think it's such a different spot that Geno's in this year because he knows that he's the man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it definitely has potential, but I guess I'm not that excited about it because, you mentioned a lot of young guys, a lot of rookies.
But I figured you'd be more excited based on, and I know it's not a guarantee just because of what happened last year, happens this year, and you get, Tariq Woolen. We talked about everybody that started and had it, not just started, but had an impact on the team last year. Young rookies we're talking about. That doesn't make it true for this year. But having said that, you really like, on the surface, again, you're right, it's just potential. We haven't seen him at this level, but you like the idea of a guy in Witherspoon who you spent that draft capital on. And in Jigba, as you just talked about, had he not been hurt, maybe he is a top 5 pick. And this center, I loved reading the articles after the draft. I couldn't find anything negative about it. Everybody was like, he could be one calling him the steal of the draft. Others couldn't figure out why he was drafted as low as he was. Nobody seemed to have an answer. There was no, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I get why they're questioning this aspect. So he's the Outland winner. He's the Remington winner. And then we talked to him. I think it was when you were gone. Lefko and I talked to him out there. Couldn't be more impressive as just a guy, a person. Super nice, very smart. I'm excited about him. I know that doesn't guarantee he's going to be a stud and he could go out there and fall on his face, but I don't expect that. I'm very excited about the potential of this line 1 through 5.
Yeah, it's still weird to me though that all of those accolades, that why was he drafted in the 5th round? But I'm really excited about him, much more than Evan Brown. But I don't know, maybe it ends up being him in the beginning, and then maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 games into it, they can start to put Olu in. The one thing you don't have to worry about, because this is Schneider said to me that he is as smart as bleep, so that it's not going to be about picking up the playbook or anything like that. And center's got to be on top of it. You got to be a thinker, and he is. So, yeah, I'm really, to answer your question, I'm much more excited about him than I am Evan Brown. But, we'll see. Evan Brown's the veteran.